Hey YouTube, Kevin Cleary with a knife video. Got a knife today that is a little different than what I normally have on the channel, and wanted to share this with you because it's kind of cool and kind of different. There are a couple little complaints that I have, but I'll address those as we go along. This is the Bokor Excalibur. Now this is a pretty old design from Boker. It's been around for quite a while. They've re-released this, and I don't know if it was last year, 2015, or I think 2015 was when these came out. There are not a lot of them around right now. I did some Googling before I did this video. I think you can still find one, but they're just not widely available. So this particular Bokor Excalibur, the thing that's cool about it and interesting to me about it is, number one, the materials. So the steel on this is S35VN. The handle materials are carbon fiber with a carbon fiber backspacer and a titanium frame side. Titanium pocket clip as well. So very high-end materials. Now the other thing that's cool about this is the deployment mechanism. So if you are already familiar with the Bokor Excalibur, you know about this, but if you're not, this has a really cool front flipper, which is really neat. Now I will say it took me a little bit of practice to get proficient at that, and I'll try not to blow it on camera anytime while I'm doing this. I can't make any promises, but really cool deployment. One of the cool things about it is if you handed this to someone, they're just going to open it like this. They would never, I don't think, realize that it's actually a front flipper and can be opened quite quickly if you know how to do it. So there you go. Now let's get into the features of this knife, because not only is it kind of interesting, and you know, I am kind of a sucker for interesting, different stuff, and so that was one of the things that really drew me to this knife. You know, I tend to like stuff from Grant and Gavin Hawk and a few other designers that tend to do things a little differently, and so that's what made me interested in this. Let's go ahead then and start with size and weight, and then we'll talk about the components. We'll do some comparisons, although I will say I don't have a lot of stuff that's really comparable, but I've got some things that are kind of in the ballpark. So I'll bring those out here in a second. Size and weight on this is one thing that's really impressive. So this is 8 1/8 inches overall. The blade is 3.5 inches. The handle is 4 5/8. Okay, so you can kind of see where the overall weight comes from. I'll give you one more time flipping that. Now, what's really cool is the thinness and lightness of this knife. It weighs just under 3 ounces, and look how thin, right? You've got maybe 1/4 inch, just a little over, in fact, 1/4 inch there. So this thing, you don't even know you're carrying it. It literally disappears. And to me, that was really cool. Okay, so size and weight on this are one of the things that made me really interested in it, especially as I started doing a little more research. I realized that the tie and carbon fiber version was really lightweight and really thin. I was like, you know what, I've got to check that out. So I went ahead and I've been carrying this and using it, and it's been very good. Now let me say up front that this is a gentleman's folder, okay? It's not, I would never take this out to the bush. I would never recommend like skinning an animal with it. I have done some food prep with it. I've done lots of EDC tasks with it, and it's been very good. The blade is extremely thin. And actually, let's go ahead and talk about the blade. Since we're already starting to talk about the use of the knife, I'll zoom in here for you because this is a gorgeous blade. There we go. Focus. And you can see that it says Exskelibur there on the blade. That's the designer of this knife. And this blade is a drop point with a very high hollow grind. And as I've often said, you know, I feel like a broken record about this, but I just love a hollow grind, especially a hollow grind that's this high. This is so nice and thin behind the edge that it just slices through things like you're just cutting through butter or styrofoam. You know, it just feels like, doesn't matter what you're cutting, it feels like it's just made of nothing, because this knife is so thin it just slides through materials very easily. It is from Boker Plus, so that's their China-made stuff. And there are a couple of typical Boker Plus issues with this, okay? So I'll speak to that as we go along. But we're still focusing on the blade here. S35VN, great steel, right? Great edge retention, great rust resistance, you know, just nothing at all to complain about with the steel on this. And I really like this blade shape. The one thing I like about it, well, you know, first off, it's really useful, but what I really like about this knife overall and about the blade shape specifically is, you know, this is a knife that I carry often if I think I'm going to be going somewhere where people are going to be like, oh, he's got a knife, you know. This knife is not going to upset anyone. In fact, it's very, very attractive, and it looks, when it's closed, you know, it just sort of looks like an oversized Swiss Army knife. So that is really, really cool. That's the blade. Really like that blade, although I would say there is that one qualifier that this is not a hard use knife, okay? Not by any definition of hard use. You got to kind of think that, hey, I'm gonna take it a little bit easy on this one. It's more of a light use gentleman's folder. Okay, now moving on to lockup and deployment. Let me turn it this way. It is a titanium frame lock. You can see that it's quite thin. So first off, let's hit a couple complaints. Number one, you see this proprietary pivot. The knife does not ship with a spanner tool. I've emailed Boker about getting one, and so I made you a quick update. There's the slightest bit, and I mean slightest bit of side-to-side play. It's not bad at all, and in fact, you know, it hasn't bothered me, but what bothers me really is that I can't adjust it. So there's a Torx bit on this side. You go, oh yeah, I'll just adjust it. Well, no, you can't, because this just spins freely. You need that spanner tool to adjust this knife, and as it stands now, you can't do it. Now, it's nearly perfect, okay? It's so close that like a fraction of a turn would make it just right. But as it stands, there's just, like right now, there's no side-to-side play, but if I really, really push on it, I can get a little bit, okay? So because of that, I would like to be able to tighten it up just a little bit. And I think, you know, if you're gonna put a proprietary pivot on a knife like this one has, you ought to be shipping it with the spanner tool. So that's my you know, sort of complaint on lockup and deployment. On the bright side, though, I've got to say the lock is very functional. It locks up nice and solid. No issue in terms of up and down play. When I first got this, there would be a little bit of slide on the lock, just as I would, you know, hold it to do something. Over a few days, though, maybe a week, it broke in, and now the lock just settles to a particular place and never changes. One thing I will say that's cool is the way this front flipper is designed. It flips really fast, really hard, and to me, that's just like, that is really, really cool. It's as fast as any conventional flipper that I've ever tried, maybe even faster than a lot of conventional flippers that I've tried. It does take a little bit of practice, but if you buy this knife and carry it with you all the time, you're going to get really, really proficient at opening this knife. Now, the other cool thing about that deployment method is it's not obvious. If I just handed you this knife and you kind of look at it here, you'd go, oh, okay, thanks, and you'd open it like this. Right? And I've tried this out a number of times, and that's what everyone does. No one clues in that you can flip it open. Even people who know about knives, unless they're aware of front flippers, they're not gonna realize that this is actually a flipper deployed knife, which I just think that's really, really cool. All right, so the flipper works really well. The pivot is very smooth for, you know, Teflon washers. No complaints there. My only complaint is I do want the ability to adjust that. And I have emailed Boker. I haven't heard back from them, but I'll probably have this in a most carried or whatever, and I'll kind of give you a quick update on what happens with getting a spanner tool from Boker. All right, so that's lockup and deployment. Very, very cool. And that's honestly one of the neatest things about this knife is that front flipping action. What about the handle? Well, the handle is very, very nice. Okay, titanium and carbon fiber. Really nice looking carbon fiber, by the way. Sometimes in you know, these knives are not super expensive. And so sometimes you get carbon fiber that doesn't look that awesome, or you'll have like voids around the side. This looks just perfect. It's really, really nice. It does, here's my, Sorry, I dropped it. Here's my one complaint about this handle, and that is the hardware. Okay, like many Boker Plus knives made in China, the hardware on this is too soft, and so you can see I have moved the pocket clip to tip up carry, but in doing that I stripped these screws to crap. And so when I sent that email to Boker, I did ask them for more screws. I haven't heard back yet, but I will keep you updated. I was able to get enough to get my screwdriver to catch enough to fill those back in and get the clip where I wanted it, but these screws really need to be switched out. I didn't put any Loctite or anything on them because I'm like, no, I'm definitely going to throw these away and put new screws in here. But that is a drawback, and you're going to see that on a lot of Chinese-made knives, whether it be Boker or Kershaw or anything else. What I would like to see, a knife at this price point, and these go for around over $100 US anyway, maybe 150 US. Let's just, I'm guessing a little bit at that. But at that price point, you should be using hardened steel hardware as far as I'm concerned. And so that's a frustration. And it's a frustration many people share and have talked about. Oh yeah, let me back up 1 second. One thing I would have liked to see here, especially, you know, it was released last year, so it's not like this isn't already a common practice. There should be a hardened steel lock bar insert here. A little disappointing that it doesn't have it, but again, not the end of the world. This is not, you know, this is not a hard use knife anyway, so I don't foresee myself beating the snot out of this. It's, to me, this is a knife that you carry to church or when you're going out, and especially I carry this when I'm going and I pretty well know that I'm going to use my knife, and I want that option to use a knife that isn't going to be upsetting to anyone. Okay, so that's lockup and deployment and the handle. I do have that one complaint about the soft steel, and I did strip these pretty badly. That probably can be visible on camera there for you. Otherwise, though, I really like this handle. It is slight. Okay, so if you've ever, you know, it's very, very lightweight. It feels like nothing in hand, but with that very light feeling, it also feels like a knife you probably don't want to, you know, you're not going to want to be batoning or anything with this. It's, as I said before, this is sort of a light use gentleman's folder. All right, let's back out. And I've got a couple of comparisons for you. Not only would these be knives that are similar in some way, whether size or weight or roll, but they're knives that maybe you would consider as an alternative to this. So, you know, if you're looking just for a really lightweight knife, something like a SOG Aegis would be a great option. These weigh close to the same. The Aegis is a little heavier, but similar size, similar function. And I would, by the way, don't, you know, SOG's advertising on the Aegis is like, oh, this is like a hard use tactical knife. It is not in any sense. This I would consider a light use EDC. It's not strongly, it's not overbuilt at all. You could, I think it would break if you put it into the kind of roll that SOG suggests for it. Anyway, that's one comparison. These are, you know, similar, I think, in roll, just a light use EDC. Now, let me say this. I think it would be a home run if SOG re-released the Aegis in a, you know, stainless steel G10 with the actual arc lock instead of the FRN. I think it would be an absolute win for them. Let's pull out another knife that's similar in size and even in weight, not so much in function. This is, of course, the Para 2. Both of these happen to be S35VN, which I think is kind of neat. But the Para 2 is, you know, just a standard sort of size and weight knife. So this is actually lighter than the Para 2, but you can see the similarity in size. One thing is, and a lot of knives have this, the Boker does have more cutting edge than the Para 2. Now, the one knife I have that I thought was similar in sort of roll was my titanium Damascus Endura. Now the Endura is larger, but it's really thin. It is definitely a gentleman's folder more than, I don't think this is a tactical knife. I don't think this is even an EDC knife. This is strictly a gentleman's folder, and I only carry it on days where I know I'm going to be pretty light and easy on a knife. And that's sort of the same with this one. And actually, I don't think these are that different in price either. Okay, so this is a gorgeous knife. I really, really love it. And I think somewhat comparable. Now it is quite a bit heavier, but extremely thin profile. high-end materials similar to the Excalibur. Overall, guys, I do really like this knife. I actually end up carrying it to church a lot of times. I'll carry it if we're going out with friends. You know, I'll carry, it's a great knife to carry if you're wearing shorts or light pants that, you know, a larger knife would be uncomfortable. Plus, the main thing that I think, the main area I really find this excels is you can get a knife that carries really, really light and really small, but you're still getting that 3.5-inch blade that I like to see on things. So, so this knife is super lightweight, and yet you don't have to give up anything in terms of blade length or performance. So there you go, guys. Hope you enjoyed the video of this really kind of different knife. I've got to say, I do really like this. I just find it has a lot of cool factor to it. Just the size, the weight, the high-end materials, the really interesting flipping mechanism with the front flipper. This one I think is a pretty cool knife, and I would like to see one with just some slight improvements. Titanium lock bar insert, hardware that is a little nicer, but otherwise, yeah, great knife. Very, very impressive. Hope that if you really want one of these, you can find one. I think they're still out there. Anyway, that's my take on the Bokor Excalibur in the titanium and carbon fiber. We'll talk to you soon.